Welcome back to Let's Talk Business Phoenix, the Greater Phoenix Chambers podcast. I'm your host, Todd Sanders, President and CEO of the Greater Phoenix Chamber. Throughout each episode, we're going to explore key issues impacting our businesses, our community, and our state, highlighting opportunities for growth, addressing some challenges, and bringing leaders together to continue moving Phoenix forward. Let's jump into today's discussion. Well, welcome back to the podcast. We have a really special guest today. We have Congressman Greg Stanton here from Washington, fresh in from D.C. Congressman, thank you for joining us.
It's good to be back. Yeah, it's been I guess I was in season 2, I just heard, and
that's
now in
right.
season 4. So congratulations on the success of the podcast. That's great.
Thank you so much. Well, I think probably most people know you, but maybe for those one or two people that may not, obviously a little bit about yourself, time in Phoenix, and then what you're up to these days.
All right, I'll give you the short version, which is this. I'm a local guy. I'm as Phoenix through and through. Grew up here in town. Grew up in the west side of Phoenix. Cortez High School many years ago.
What was their mascot? Or what is their
The
mascot?
Colts.
Okay.
Cortez Colts. Yeah.
All right.
And grew up in a family that through our church, my parents were always giving back to the community. People would deliver food, clothing, diapers, shoes, and they'd deliver out to migrant workers on the West Valley or kids that were staying in Adobe Mountain going through the justice system that needed help. And they would support them in so many ways. And they just were about service, helping others. And so I went away for college and law school, but came back to Phoenix. And, I was always interested in public policy and public service. And so entering politics for me was kind of a natural thing to do as a way to give back to the community. So I'm kind of an old-fashioned public servant. Yeah. I don't really have an axe to grind. I just want to serve the community that I've been so lucky to live in and now raising my family in. And so I served on city council. And then for 2 years, I was Deputy Attorney General with Terry Goddard when he was Attorney General. That was a great experience.
I remember that.
And then I was lucky enough to be elected mayor of the city, and that's when you and I got to work so closely together. And then I had a decision in my last year in office when Senator Sinema switched over to the Senate. There was an open congressional seat, and I decided, you know what? I love public service. It's who I am. And so it was an opportunity to keep serving. I was termed out in mayor, so if I wanted to keep going in public service, it was a good opportunity. And for me, it was the right decision. So now I'm in my 4th term in Congress.
Congrats.
I'm celebrating this year 25 years of public service. And people ask me all the time, what's it like being in public service? And I tell them, you work 7 days a week. People get angry at you all the time. I fly back and forth to Washington, so it's tough on family and relationships. I go to the grocery store for a 5-minute trip, and 45 minutes later, people are still telling me what I should or shouldn't be doing.
Everyone has an opinion?
We could probably make more money doing other things, but for me, there's nothing else I'd rather do. I mean, public service is an opportunity to really make your community better, help others, if that's what your motivation is. For me, that's what it is. I love it. So 25 years well spent, in my opinion.
Okay. And obviously you went to law school, never had an interest really going into the legal career?
Well,
besides the time of the AG's office?
I did do it for 5 years in private law practice, so I was a litigator, and I was okay at it. But for me, I always had the bug to go into politics. As you know, I spent many years at the city. 17 years on council and mayor. And I love city politics. I'm an urban city guy at heart. And so I enjoyed practicing law, but public service is way better. And so the opportunity to serve the community at the city level, dealing with, economic development that you guys deal with, transportation issues, running Sky Harbor, because when you're on the council, you're basically on the board of directors for Sky Harbor Airport, trying to build an economy that's built to last, which the Chamber's been working so hard on for so many years. The chance to be a part of it, it's awesome. I love it. So anybody listening, if you're even thinking about public service, do it. You only live once. Give it your best shot. People always wonder, what's a good time to run? There's never a good time to run. It's always an irrational decision, but a good one if you love public service.
I like that. It sounds right. So thinking about sort of your role at the city, obviously on council and as mayor, you were impacting people's daily lives. From soup to nuts, and then you're to Congress, and it's a lot more esoteric. How was that jump? You're so much further removed from people's lives in terms of the policy or you're pushing forward.
Okay, I mean, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, is that not true? I mean, it's certainly.
I would argue the issues we've been dealing with over the last 6-8 months, the fight for making healthcare as affordable as possible, you better believe that impacts people's lives right away. But I know what you're saying when you're dealing with neighborhood issues, street issues,
barking dog
zoning
ordinances,
issues, liquor licenses. That's the kind of stuff that really impact. In fact, I jokingly say so many people go to Congress and they're used to going to their local Republican club or Democratic club and getting adoring cheers. They're not used to being yelled at. So when they do get yelled at, it's a shocking experience. And I'm like, I'm a city guy. I get yelled at every Wednesday night at zoning meetings when people are mad about decisions we're making that impact their neighborhoods. You learn to get thick skin in local government. But I love it. Look, the difference is, of course, when you're mayor, it's more of an executive position. Obviously the body is only 8 members of council plus the mayor, so totally of 9. So 5 votes.
Right. Oh yeah.
Gets it done at
you
the
have
city
to work
of Phoenix.
together.
Now I need 218 votes. So, but the fundamentals are the same. If you want to get things done, you gotta work with broad coalitions. Almost always across the aisle. You almost get nothing done in Congress unless you work in a bipartisan way. When I was on city council, we always had bipartisan councils. And so to get anything done, you have to build your coalition on the issue. And every time it was a different coalition. It wasn't the same group of people. So each issue, you have to build your coalition. You have to kind of get the community behind you, because you're going to be much more motivating for people inside City Hall to get things done if the community supports what you're doing. You got to use the bully pulpit very effectively. And kind of the same thing in Congress. I've got 435 members. I got to get a majority of them if I want to win on an issue that I care about. And so you have to build broad coalitions. It's a lot harder, certainly. It often takes more time. The lifespan of an idea at city may be 6 months or a year. In Congress, it can be 4 or 5 years. But the fundamentals of politics is always the same, which is you've got to be the type of person that can work with everyone and build broad, strong coalitions to get things done.
Well, it takes me back to your earlier comment about being an old school sort of public policy person, because it seems like, and maybe this is to us maybe on the outside, that most people are interested in sort of the culture wars and the gotcha politics and less interested in sitting down with somebody perhaps across the aisle to get something done. Is that an accurate statement, or do you feel like most folks in Congress really want to get things done and the culture wars are just part of the facade?
Okay, I would argue that it's a little bit of both.
Okay.
Meaning the members of Congress that are famous and kind of bombastic and go on TV and get all the Twitter followers, that is a significant minority in terms of Congress. I mean, there's 435 members. How many members can the average person listening to this podcast name? Probably 20 or 30, and those tend to be the ones that are on TV the most bombastic. Most members of Congress are more like me, which is just people that want to put their heads down and really roll up your sleeves, literally and figuratively, and get things done. Now, I would argue in the current environment, it is frustrating because now I happen to be kind of a moderate Democrat. I'm very active in what's called the New Dems, which is the moderate Democratic coalition in Congress, and we by nature are bipartisan. And we've lost this feeling that working with people that you sometimes disagree with and reaching compromise, I feel, is a strength, because that's what's necessary to get things done. In this current environment, especially with the Trump in the White House, they consider compromise a weakness. You can't compromise with your opponent. You gotta, own the libs or whatever. And, that culture, I think, is toxic. And unfortunately, a lot of my Republican friends who really are there for good reason and just want to get things done, unfortunately, are politically in a position where they feel like they can't stand up to the president, otherwise he'll get a primary against them. And it's why you see so many members of Congress now choosing to leave the body, leave public service, rather than deal in that environment. And we've got to get, if it's possible, to get back to the time where working in a sincere bipartisan way, which is really the only way to get things done, is considered a strength and not a weakness.
Absolutely. So thinking about bipartisanship and the fact that we finally were able to open the government back up, first of all, impacts from the shutdown from your perspective, and secondly, what do you hope to accomplish post shutdown that you think you can work together with the other party and the president to get through?
Well, in the short run, healthcare is still the number one issue. I mean, obviously we had a disagreement about what we should be doing in order to reopen the government. Democrats generally took a principled position that, hey, we are in a healthcare crisis. We've cut the Affordable Care, Medicaid. So many of our local hospitals, we built such a strong healthcare economy here in Phoenix and in Arizona generally. And many of our healthcare institutions are going to be devastated because of those massive cuts to Medicaid, the largest in American history. And then on top of that, we're trying to make sure that the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, is accessible to as many people as possible. And the tax credits that made it more affordable were running out of time, and we were trying to say, hey, we got to get those back into place so that healthcare can still be as affordable as possible. And that was not able to get worked into the solution on the shutdown, but that issue is still there. So the first thing we got to do is try to work sincerely with those across the aisle that feel the same way we do. And there are Republicans that feel this way, that we do need to make the Affordable Care Act. 20 million Americans are going to be either priced out of health care. Probably 4 million will drop health care completely, but many of them will have to make some incredibly difficult choices because of the massive increase in the premiums. That's not acceptable. We need to figure out a solution to that. So that's number one. We have a bunch of other issues we're working on. Certainly the National Defense Bill, NDAA, which is massively important. By the way, Arizona punches way above its weight with the defense industries. And so we're lucky to have those jobs here in Arizona, and it's good for our local economy, but also good for national defense. And then the issue that I work on the most, which is surface transportation. The bipartisan infrastructure law, which is one of the great laws in American history, is now up for reauthorization. It was a 5-year lifespan.
Hard
Believe it or not, 5 years goes by quick.
Hard to imagine.
And so we've got to get back into it. And look, I'm a big believer in, when it comes to transportation, all of the above. A great city, great communities have as many transportation options as possible. We are running a little bit of a fight because the Republicans want to significantly cut back support for public transportation, light rail, buses, et cetera. We've seen in Phoenix, I believe the light rail has been very successful, particularly from an economic development perspective. The built environment is so positively developed as a result of that. And so I want to keep fighting to make sure we have a fair split between highways and freeways and roads and public transportation. So that's a very important bill. And then one more. This is one we are working with the administration on. Sean Duffy, the Secretary of Transportation, needs bipartisan support to make sure that we can get the upgrades to the air traffic control system. At the beginning of this year, of course, there was that terrible plane crash and accident in the Washington area, and very serious issues associated with that. And it is time that we quit doing Band-Aids on the air traffic control system, but make it fully improved and advanced and modernized, and really have the safest air system in the world that people can rely on for decades to come. And I'm certainly going to be supportive of that.
It seems like a no-brainer. I mean, given the complexity of the system and the fact that we're one of the most advanced countries in the world.
I would agree with that. I mean, but I want to make sure you're clear, even with the most advanced technology, and we need to have that in aviation system, we still need highly trained and qualified workforce in that area. I know it's you guys at the chamber
near and dear to
deal
our
more in so many industries. You're going to hear that consistently, but certainly in air traffic control. And the culture now is, because the air traffic controllers are so overworked, they're working 6.5 days a week to keep up with the demand, because aviation is growing so exponentially. And from a pressure perspective, it is one of the highest pressure jobs. So even though they're making a lot of overtime, I'm really worried about the long-term impact of that stress. We need to grow that workforce so that we don't ask people to work 6 days a week.
No question. And then on the shutdown itself, will it be short-term impacts? Do you think this will impact the country on a longer-term basis?
Well, as you know, the agreement to reopen the government was only till January. So I hope cooler heads can prevail. The president is in the process of proposing various ideas about the healthcare system. I don't always agree with the president. Obviously, I speak my mind when I think that he is moving in the wrong direction. But he is the president. I'll listen to whatever ideas he has. If he's willing to do make healthcare accessible for the next 2 or 3 years while he works on a longer plan. You know what? I can live with that. I'm not committing to anything that he might suggest in the future, but in the short run, we've got to make sure, as we're fighting the lower costs, one of the biggest costs for the American people is healthcare, and we've got to do what we can to lower healthcare costs for the American people.
So before we pivot off the financial side of things, obviously DOGE in the beginning part of the administration was all over the news, and from my perspective, just Todd's perspective, it felt like it was more of a blunt instrument where we just chopped off, X percent of government and weren't really thinking about where we needed to cut and where we didn't. What's your perspective on those cuts, and is it going to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish?
No. And DOGE, at the time that we are doing this interview or this discussion right now, DOGE is officially dead. They've disbanded it. I think even the administration realizes what a tragic error that was. It's okay to reduce the size of government. Yeah. We want government to operate more efficiently. How do you do that? You bring everyone to the table and you do it in an orderly manner. You make decisions about where you can consolidate efforts, just like companies have to do this on occasion, industries have to do this. Bill Clinton did it when he was president. They reorganized government and they did end up eliminating numerous jobs, but they did it in an orderly way. To come in and have DOGE just come in and indiscriminately fire people without actually understanding what those individual employees do, I think was wrong-headed. And of course, after they fired many people, later on when they realized how essential the work they were doing, they begged them to come back, And, look, people who work in government service, they're also public servants, and we need to honor and respect them. They're not perfect, but they do good work. They could be making more money doing other things. They've chosen serving their country as their profession, and we should honor that. And indiscriminately firing people and then begging them to come back, that's not a way to run the most important government on planet Earth, or unilaterally ending collective bargaining agreements that they have worked so hard for. That's not the right way of going about it. And so doing this in a much more orderly way is smart. The way DOGE did it didn't happen. And so I was not unhappy to see the breakup of Elon Musk and Donald Trump. I think that probably was a good thing for our country.
Absolutely. So I want to pivot a little bit. Obviously, you go anywhere in the country and people, the first thing they ask you is TSMC, and we know that just that investment's over $160 billion, and that's not counting everything that came with it. What is Congress looking at to increase our position sort of in the semiconductor space and the clean tech space, not only in Arizona, but the country? The
country. It's all about Arizona.
Well, that's good. Who else is? Trying to be magnanimous.
We're homers. I'm telling you, they're jealous by Congress members around the country of the success we've had here. I want to compliment you and the chamber and so many people, including I've been involved for a long period of time. This is, it is an amazing accomplishment what has happened here in Arizona. After the recessionary periods of 2008-9, not that many years ago.
You were on council.
I was on council, yeah. And the fact that we realized that, at that time that our economy in Phoenix, we needed to change it. It just wasn't, there wasn't the depth to it, there wasn't diversity to it, too much based on real estate. And we actually needed a more diverse, high-wage, highly educated workforce with technical skills and an advanced economy. And, a lot of people try to take credit for it, but the truth is everyone did their part. It wasn't one person. It was some political leadership, by the way, both Democrats and Republicans, the business leadership, yourself included, our universities, because ASU, Dr. Crow and ASU made the decision that they were going to have the largest engineering school in the country. That was a massively important decision of cities to invest in higher education directly. ASU's in downtown Phoenix. That was because of investment by the voters of the people of Phoenix. And now we've got a university that's like 12 or 13,000 students, a pretty big university in its own right in the heart of the city. Public transportation investments, bioscience investments, and you put it all together. And to see where we have now one of the leading economies, regional economies in the country, including being by far the leading center for semiconductor manufacturing in the entire country, including now the leading cutting edge chips that are coming out of TSMC. Incredible. And it's an incredible achievement. And maybe you'll write the book someday. Someone's got to write the book about how we did that. But it really is, it happened a little by little, so sometimes you don't realize what a massive accomplishment that is. But that is worth noting. Now, what can Congress do? Look, the CHIPS and Science Act was a massively important and successful piece of legislation. And it's not really about subsidizing the industry. It's more about the workforce investments, including in universities and our local community colleges, who are essential to create that workforce that we need. And it's about the science. We have to make sure that America is leading in the science of semiconductor. And I believe we should be doing CHIPS 2.0 like right now. We are in the biggest competition we could possibly be in with China. Phoenix is front and center in that competition, the success of that competition. And I don't even care about subsidies. We need to continue to invest in the workforce development and training to make sure that we are in the best position for TSMC, Intel, all of the supply chain that go along with it, the tens of thousands of jobs that go along that supply chain, and the other leading industries, Amcor, et cetera, that are coming here. Right. We got to keep that positive momentum going. And so I'm working on it now, and I want to be one of the leaders on the next major industrial investment in this country, industrial policy in this country, and that's CHIPS 2.0.
I'm assuming the Chinese are focused not only on the incentive side, if they need those, but certainly on the intentionality around the science.
Of course. I mean, look, this is the competition of our time. And I don't think China is our enemy. I don't think we should treat them as our enemy. But they are our competitor. And when they compete unfairly, we should call them out on it, especially dumping certain products in the United States. We should be smart about export controls to make sure that we are building the leading chips here that are going to give us the advantage in the AI race. We don't want to give up that competitive advantage. We've earned that competitive advantage. We all know the amount of industrial policy they do in China, where they, the government invests so much in those industries. We're not China. We are a capitalistic society, and we're going to win because we are a capitalistic society with the leading innovators and thinkers and leaders that we have in our country. That's our special sauce to win this competition. But we also need to make sure we have that trained workforce. And that is why I think CHIPS 2.0 is so important to win this economic challenge that we have with China right now.
So I want to get to workforce, but since you talked about trade policy, tariffs, clearly they've been up, they've been down, they're here, they're not here. The Supreme Court's going to weigh in on this. On balance, how do you see this tariff policy for the country?
I think it's terrible. I'm shocked by what we're seeing. First off, I was at the Supreme Court for the oral argument, and I believe, as I sit here, that the Supreme Court will strike down the tariff regime. It is clear that tariffs are taxes, and our Constitution is as clear as can be that Congress has to vote on any taxes for the American people. Just like we vote on appropriation spending, we have to vote on the revenue side taxes. And I mean, even the conservative justices were hammering the administration, who had the lawyers for the administration had the toughest job possible. How do you explain that a tariff is not a tax when it obviously is a tax? So it's illegal, but also it is self-defeating. I mentioned this competition with China. The only way we can't win it unilaterally, we have to win it in partnership with our allies. Why are we putting such high tariffs on our next door neighbors, Canada and Mexico? I mean, the cost to the state of Arizona certainly is massive. Mexico has been our number one trading partner forever. We benefit so much from our Canadian partnerships and friends, particularly from tourism, which we're really hurting on right now because we're losing out on that Canadian tourism. And so from a diplomatic perspective, it is self-defeating. What are we doing with Europe? Why are we taxing our European allies? And certainly our Asian partners like Korea, South Korea, and Japan, who we need to be working more closely with in order to win the economic battle with China. They're very angry about how the United States is treating them. And so, I just believe that we have to be smart about tariffs. Not all tariffs are bad. If China is dumping solar panels or something in the United States, that makes perfect sense. But if we're doing it as a revenue replacement, actually, you know what? This is the largest tax increase on the American people since, Smoot-Hawley in the 1930s. And the President of the United States has not really explained why. Is it to bring new business to the United States? Is it to raise revenue for the United States? Is it to kind of put us in the position to squeeze our allies to get the best deal possible? Any one of those may be considered a rational reason, but they're all at war with themselves. Sometimes if you're trying to get more business here, that means less revenue from tariffs. So the president really hasn't sat down at the Oval Office and looked in the camera and explained to the American people, why are we doing this? What is the reason why? And it certainly can't be to create a situation where every company in America has to come to the administration and beg for an exemption from the policy. And it based on who spends most time at Mar-a-Lago, who gets the best deal. That's not a way to run the American economy. So I feel that, number one, it's illegal, and number two, it is weakening our ability to win this most important economic competition with China right now.
Understood. So you mentioned workforce. Can't argue about the lack of workforce or the need for workforce in the advanced manufacturing space, but you mentioned healthcare earlier. We talked in Phoenix, financial services, IT, cyber, construction, all of these areas where there's a dearth of workforce. How's Congress looking at workforce? Maybe is it looking at it differently, or is it sort of same old? What's happening?
Well, I would say a little bit of both. We need to make sure we continue to invest in workforce development and invest where we know it works. In Arizona, we know it works at our universities and at our community college level. I mean, Maricopa Community Colleges, you and I have talked about this many times, is like the secret weapon we have here locally, and it's an underutilized weapon, if you will, that we have in place, ready to rock and roll, a leading workforce development entity that you don't necessarily have to get a degree. If you're a company or an industry listening to this right now, and you need a trained workforce, you can go to Maricopa Community Colleges right now and come up with an 8-week training program, a 4-week training program. And I believe, by the way, Congress should actually allow Pell Grants to support short-term programs. It doesn't have to be a associate's degree program or a 4-year bachelor degree program. We just want to train people so they can get in jobs that have livable
certification.
Yeah, of course. There's a way to be very smart about this. So many of the jobs in semiconductor, high-wage jobs, you don't need to go training for a year or 2 years. You can go training for a couple months, and they can tell you exactly what you need to know to get into that most important industry. So that, obviously that is critically important. And we should not shy away from the fact that a smart immigration policy is going to help us compete. And we should embrace that. So in key sectors, including agriculture, which is so important to the Arizona economy, we need a smart immigration program that helps grow the economy. We need strong border security. We all agree on that in a bipartisan way, but where there seems to be disagreement with is that we should actually have an legal immigration system that helps grow the economy, including in the H-1B program, in which we can really bring in highly trained people with technical skills that can come here and help grow the economy. Many of them become entrepreneurs and they can grow their own companies. And obviously, so many of the leading Fortune 500 companies are led by people who, at one point in their lives, were immigrants to this country. Immigration has been so beneficial to the United States. So, of course, first and foremost, train Americans and make sure they're in the best position. But as we grow the economy, there's going to be more jobs in which we need to fill, and we should have a smart immigration system that allows us to grow the American economy. So I'm certainly stand by.
Solution.
Certainly we need immigration reform.
Yeah.
I mean, look, we can go on and on about that, but I mean, I've been in Eloy detention center, and I've talked to the people there, and many of the people there that are being waited to be deported are business owners, people that are owning restaurants and hiring American workers and supporting local Boy Scout troops and Girl Scout troops and baseball teams, et cetera, who have never committed a crime and been here for 20 years. And like, why are we deporting that person? Under any comprehensive immigration reform policy, that person would have a pathway to citizenship, not being deported elsewhere. And I do think, obviously, mass deportation, the way it's been implemented in this country, is number one, wrong, and number two, wildly unpopular with the American people. They want to make sure we deport people with violent criminal records who are a threat, but people that are business owners who came here 20 years ago and have been active involvement as leaders in the community, we should have policies that allow those people to stay and actually become citizens and help continue to grow the American economy.
Your to-do list is growing by the minute in our 30 minutes that we've been talking. So I'll add to that. I'll add to that and throw in housing. Clearly, and this from your time on the council and as mayor, housing is becoming more of an issue with affordability, with supply. Is that something that you're looking at and focused on as well?
Of course, at the federal level, number one, I am the leader on the issue of trying to undo many of the tariffs that are in place. Congress should be voted on the tariffs. And I've got a lot of members supporting the fact that regardless of whether you like Trump or not like Trump, that power to tariff lies with Congress. And I think if we had a vote on many of the tariffs, which are increasing the costs of housing, there's no doubt about it. The president says he wants to be a leader on making the country more affordable, but he's the one putting his tariffs into place, which are significantly increasing the prices of construction. So that's a real problem. I'm also one of the sponsors of the so-called YIMBY bill, Yes in My Backyard, which really incentivizes communities to look at the land use process and make it easier and faster for people who want to build, particularly housing, to be able to do so. There's a really moment in time right now where we're looking at permanent reform, where you see a coalition building, Democrats and Republicans. Democrats wanted to come to the table on permanent reform because 80% of the projects that are in the queue that are waiting years and years for approval are clean energy projects, and we need to get those through. So permanent reform, I think, will help with that as well. And then also look at the financing side. Around the country, you see more and more communities, including here in Arizona, that are allowing more accessible dwelling units. But for so many people, it's unaffordable to build them. I mean, they cost $50,000, $60,000. So should we actually allow Fannie and Freddie to finance accessible dwelling units, to make them actually accessible for many more families so that they can move their mother-in-law or grandparents into their community and take advantage of that as well. So we should be looking at the finance side as well. So a whole package of ideas about how we can make housing and the creation of more housing easier, swifter, and more affordable.
Let me pivot now. We just got back from Mexico City with Governor Hobbs, and actually when we were there, I told the story of the time that I think that you and I went down with a small group of people, and it was that first trip by a delegation, and really it was very difficult for Arizona to open doors. I think you made 16 trips. I'm assuming you continue to make those, but talk about the importance of Mexico in terms of the trade relationship, but also the political importance of having Mexico close to the United States and Arizona.
I mean, look, we're a border state, and some people think that's a reason to be fearful or trepidatious. It's one of our biggest competitive advantages that we have, particularly in trade, but also the human capital that we have here in Arizona. We have so many people in this community that their family are from Mexico or Central Latin America. They're bilingual. It's a younger population that we have here. It's a very entrepreneurial. You go to the Datos event with the Hispanic Chamber. I mean, the future of our community is small business, and it is Latino-owned business, and mostly Latina-owned businesses. Women-owned businesses are the future of this community. And so it's such a innovative, entrepreneurial, and so many have family and friends relationships in Mexico, Central Latin America. And as international trade becomes such an important, growing part of our economy, there you have it. That is our strategic advantage. We ought to embrace that. Make sure that our Latino community is graduating high school at higher rates, entering universities or community college at higher rates, and that is such a strategic advantage. But I would argue that as our economy grows, along with the growth of the trade partnership with Mexico, helping on both sides of the border, by the way, we should not underestimate how important Mexico is going to be as we continue to have this economic challenge with China. I mean, there are certain jobs in the semiconductor supply chain that may not work in Arizona, but you want to make sure you have a secure supply chain. Mexico's right there, and we should be working with the Mexican government. It's a friendly neighbor, so that instead of being in China, a lot of the suppliers are next door, just south of us. Yeah. Same time zone, and we can make sure that, because we can't have, we got to make sure the entire supply chain in semiconductor is as secure as possible. So they can be our best friend and partner in that regard. It's another reason why USMCA, which actually, in my opinion, may have been the biggest accomplishment of the Trump administration in their first term. And instead of coming back in his next term and beginning to figure out ways we can partner even more closely with Mexico, instead we're sticking a fork in their eye by these high tariffs that are really harming the relationship. The closer we can come together with Mexico, U.S., and Canada, the better off we're going to be in this economic competition. And so we need to be cognizant of that. Instead of creating policies based on fear, we ought to be bringing policies that bring us closer together. And that doesn't mean we don't need we need a secure border. And again, in a bipartisan way, we support the security of the border, but we don't want to do it in a way that in any way hampers the trade relationships and the job growth that go along with that. By the way, that includes the tomato suspension agreement, right, because we did hurt Arizona economy, and that's a good issue for Mexico and Arizona. We have so many people that are in that industry and so many jobs in Arizona, and I hope the administration will do the right thing and go back to what's been a good, solid policy for a while now, and that is tomato trade suspension.
Before we wrap up, I do want to go back to transportation. Obviously, you have a leadership role in Congress on transportation. You mentioned air traffic control system and air traffic control workers. What other areas in the transportation realm are you focused on now?
Oh, I mean, obviously aviation is the other big one. Sky Harbor. I mean, we're so lucky to have a great airport right in the heart of the city.
It's unusual.
Mayor Gallego and I, we're really good friends, and we share priorities. And I just really admire her and respect the work that she has done, particularly in increasing international flights as the business community and the population has grown here. It's created new opportunities for international flights, but she in particular has done a really good job of making that a high priority, and so that's really good for Arizona. And I've worked to bring investment to Sky Harbor, including the grant that allowed for better connection between the various runways, more efficiency so the planes can move more efficiently, which actually allows for more flights in and out without having to build a new runway. Right. Someday we'll have to build another runway, but we want that to be as far out as possible as we continue to build efficiencies in our airport. So that that's really another area of importance to me. The Broadway curve and the I-10 improvements, those are really awesome. What we're doing between Chandler and Casa Grande to actually grow the size of I-10 and the safety of I-10, which is not just for the travelers between Phoenix and Tucson, but also for the Gila River Indian community who use that road as their main point going from job to home. We want that to be as safe as possible. And yes, I'm still pushing for I-11, which is a good project, and we're going to get that done during my time in public service.
Where are we on that? I mean, I think before it was the environmental impact studies where things were at.
Yeah. Well, look, unfortunately, that's still where we are at, is that there are some challenges down in southern Arizona. But in Maricopa County, we've actually agreed on that. And so I think it should continue with this, with the moving forward with the Maricopa County part while they work out the legal issues down in southern Arizona. Let's be efficient and smart about this, because ultimately that is the one area in the entire country where the freeway system isn't built out is between Phoenix and Las Vegas. And that is a dangerous road, or more dangerous than it should be. It could be made a lot safer, and obviously a lot of commerce will go up and down that road as well. And so it's time that we fix that problem. And I-11 is the best way we can fix that problem while improving cargo transport and making Arizona a major hub for cargo, which a lot of jobs are associated with that as well. Oh, by the way, one more, only because you asked.
Your to-do list is getting
Amtrak.
bigger. That would be nice.
We have a station,
Amtrak,
right? Back between Phoenix and Tucson, and get Phoenix back on the Amtrak map. As you know, I've been such a supporter of light rail, and I continue to be a supporter of the growth of light rail. But we also need Amtrak in our community. That was part of the bipartisan infrastructure law. There are many studies that are going on, and it's looking very positive for our community. And I believe that is going to happen I won't put any solid date on it, but in the not too distant future, that we will get passenger rail service back in Phoenix.
And we have obviously the infrastructure for it, correct?
Sure, of course, yeah. And you've got cities in the West Valley who want it. You got Mesa that desperately wants it. Obviously, the heart of the city in downtown is you have already infrastructure there. So we need to take full advantage of it. Again, I believe that we need, just like we need as many energy options. We didn't talk energy too much. I know we ran out of time, but we need clean energy projects, as well as improving our grid system, as well as other energy sources. We need an all-of-the-above approach. I believe the same thing in transportation, that there are people who are going to come to Phoenix for a lot of different reasons, but a lot of people want to live in the heart of the city and have, light rail options, bus options, bikeability, walkability, and still have a car if they want it. In the suburbs, they have different choices. So it's not an either-or proposition. Obviously, I got a little frustrated that the legislature decided, because they don't like public transportation as much, to try to take a whack at it with Prop 400 instead of letting the mayors make that decision. Because you may not like it in Lake Havasu City, but it's very important for people living in Tempe, Mesa, and downtown Phoenix, and it's one of the choices that they make to live there. And so we should support each other and make sure that all of the priorities of the communities are met in a comprehensive transportation plan. And I'll continue to work with the cities in my district, which are Mesa, Chandler, Tempe, and Ahwatukee Foothills in Phoenix. And those happen to be the cities that most utilize public transportation in Arizona.
Absolutely, and you mentioned, and I do want to hit on that really quickly. We're obviously talking about an all of the above approach. Certainly, clean energy, natural gas, and a longer term basis, nuclear energy.
Yep.
Thoughts on how we should be thinking about it?
Well, first off, what a historical error! After we passed the Inflation Reduction Act, which was the largest investment in clean energy in American history, including solar and wind, which is where the rest of the world is going. They just had a major conference in Brazil that included every country except for the United States.
The G20.
G20 as well. Oh. I'm talking about the.
Oh, that's right.
I can't remember the name of it, but the project, the conference that brings together all the countries that talk about meeting our agreements under the Paris Climate Accord. And every country is there except for the United States, and the rest of the world is moving forward ahead with clean energy. We shouldn't be exclusively killing energy, but that needs to, as we need as much energy as possible to meet the demands of our growing economy and, of course, AI. We need as many energy options as possible. So I'm kind of one of these all of the above people. We should not shut down even nuclear, as you described. We should not shut down other forms of energy, and certainly we should not shut down clean energy. And I think in the long run, we are going to regret this time period where this administration has shut down permitting for any clean energy projects. I think that's going to put us behind the rest of the world and make us less competitive over time.
So all of the above approach that doesn't shut the door on clean energy.
And I got to say something about SRP and APS. these summers are getting brutal.
Yeah.
Extreme heat is a real issue. I'm working on that in Washington. I know Mayor Gallego and the other mayors are doing a really good job of trying to make their cities as prepared for this ongoing extreme heat, particularly the issue of not only the temperature going up so high during the summer, but at night the temperature doesn't go down as enough, and that has a devastating impact on people's bodies, for people, especially for people that happen to be unhoused. But I mean, imagine our energy grid, the pressure on that, and what would happen if we, even a portion of the grid lost energy for even a day. That would be incredibly bad, and that's why I always try to go out and say thank you to the linemen and linewomen who, anytime there's an outage somewhere, they're out there so quick because they are literally saving lives when they do that. And so the reliability of the grid is a must-have, and that's why having as many options as possible of who's putting energy into the grid is critically important.
Well, especially when you go to other states, our friends to the West California, I mean, they see brownouts all the time. Our reliability is almost 100%. When you think about the extreme heat here, we have to have that, and we do.
I mean, and you saw it happen in Texas not years ago. They don't have as much redundancy in their system. They have a closed loop system, and when that went down, they weren't able to get energy from out of state. They probably wish they had that one back when they designed their energy system. They didn't want to be part of the rest of the country. We are ultimately reliant on each other, including from an energy perspective.
So as we wrap up, looking out ahead into the future, the next 10 to 15 years, what's your vision for the Phoenix area, for Arizona?
Well, we haven't talked water. It's a much bigger and longer subject, but certainly conservation and water conservation is critical. It's a reason why I'm supporting the city of Phoenix and other cities that are doing advanced water purification, which they're basically recycling as much water as possible. It's expensive, but when we build these facilities, it allowed the cities in Maricopa County to reduce water usage from the Colorado River by like almost 50%.
So it's a game changer.
A game changer if we can do this, as well as augmentation. I'm really happy that the Water Infrastructure Financing Authority did move forward with a desalination strategy. That's a longer term strategy, but it is a must. So I would say 15 years, I think if we can do both, the right conservation policy and the right augmentation policy, we can actually have a sustainable water system. We need to get the right agreement, upper basin, lower basin, and
which is tricky.
It's tricky, but Arizona is taking, I believe, the right approach, which is shared benefit and shared pain. One side or the other shouldn't disproportionately take it. We should share in that, but that's the right strategy. But I don't foresee anything other than the Phoenix economy and this regional economy continue to grow, both in size as well as in the higher wage jobs and the sophistication of the type of jobs, that we will continue to go up the ladder of being the strongest, most sophisticated economies in the entire United States of America. Phoenix is moving up that ladder, and we're going to continue to move up that ladder. People are voting with their feet. We're still like 1 or 2 every year in terms of population growth. People are voting with their feet to come to our community. They love our quality of life and the economic opportunities that they have here. I'm a cheerleader for the community, but I also like looking at the rest of the country. Yeah. Why not Phoenix? Why not this community? As long as we keep doing what we're doing, getting people, building higher education opportunities, workforce development, making sure that employers know this is a place that they can invest for the long term. And that's what we've seen, and I believe that we're going to continue to move in that direction. So I think it's a very positive future here in Phoenix. Not perfect, but positive.
Goes back to the intentionality that you talked about after the Great Recession. Do we need to continue to have that intentionality in order to get where we need to be?
Yes. We have no laurels to rest on. We've done great. Yeah. And guess what? That means we got to work even harder to continue to move up that ladder. But yeah, I mean, I love Phoenix, and it's my community. It's where I'm raising my family. I'm not going anywhere, and so I want to, as long as the people of the community will have me, I want to continue to serve my community and be part of positive solutions for Phoenix.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for your service to the state and the country, and for coming here right before Thanksgiving. I know you have a lot to do, and I'm sure you want to be with the family. But before we let you go, we'll do a little lightning round.
Oh, no.
But this one's a little different than the usual. Well, let's start. Who's your political role model?
Well, look, if I were to look at Arizona political history,
Sure.
I mean, we have so many giants here. So, I mean,
Yeah.
like, we have plenty of incredible leaders to choose from. But Mo Udall,
Okay.
that guy, I mean, he was as impactful as any member of Congress. In our history, we've had a lot of impactful members of Congress, including Congressman Pastor, who did so much for this community, particularly from a transportation perspective. But what I love about Mo Udall, he took policy very seriously, but he never took himself very seriously. And, he did run for president one time.
I didn't know that.
He did run for president. He did not make it very far in his run for president, but he wrote a memoir called Too Funny to Be President, one of the best political memoirs. And he tells the story about after he finally lost in one of the primaries and decided he had enough. They asked him about, what happened in that primary. And he said, the voters spoke, those bastards.
I was reminds me when McCain lost the presidency, they asked him how he slept. He said, like a baby, I cried every 10 minutes.
By the way, Senator McCain, obviously a giant here locally and a giant internationally, but man, we could use his voice right now, particularly on supporting Ukraine and particularly standing up to what I consider the growing authoritarianism by this White House. He'd have none of it.
No.
And he'd have the strength and the courage. I don't even call it courage for him. It would just be him, who he is. But he would speak truth to power regardless of whether it was Republican or Democrat. And we could use that right now so much. So rest in peace, Senator, because we miss you greatly.
Absolutely. And I like the Mo Udall. And speaking of, wasn't he instrumental in the CAP?
Oh, of course. He was one of the legends. Yeah,
that's
of course.
The water that we've talked about.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
Next one. What do you wish you truly understood? And to give you some context for the question, like, for instance, I would say quantum mechanics. I'd love to really understand that, but it can be anything. What do you wish you truly understood?
Teenagers, number one, because I was going through that.
Well, good luck. Quantum mechanics is easier.
Look, I mean, just taking a page out of real life right now, AI,
Yeah.
and not necessarily like the nuts and bolts of habit, but we have like AI is an incredibly powerful tool and potentially a very dangerous tool. And as a member of Congress, we have to strike that balance of allowing innovation to occur, but not in a way that is potentially harmful to the people. And so, I really understand in a way so I can be a more effective policymaker of encouraging the innovation, but being in a position to stop the harmful side of it. If I could strike that balance better, that's something I really love to learn more about. Absolutely. Hopefully people listening will now email me with lots of ideas or call my office and get some ideas.
Okay, and then finally, what gives you hope?
Well, what gives me hope?
Yeah.
I mean, look, we're Americans, so we're going through a rough time right now. But I mean, this is not our first time going through a rough time. I mean, we survived the Civil War. Mm-hmm. We went through World War II. Obviously we were not going in the right direction on civil rights and Jim Crow for so long, but finally the people spoke up and said we're going to move in a better direction. We still got to keep moving forward, but we're Americans. We like democracy. We want equality of the branches of government. We like checks and balances. We've gotten a little away from that, but American people we're still Americans, and I believe that we are going to get back on the right track. So I don't know. I mean, I believe in this country. I believe in the spirit of this country, the innovation. And whenever we've gotten off track before, we've always gotten back on track. And so the way I describe it is things are going to get better in this country. They're probably going to get a little worse before they get better, but they're going to get better. And I'm optimistic for our future. Never bet against the United States of America.
Absolutely. Well, that's a perfect way to end the podcast. Thank you again. Thank you for being here, for your friendship, and also for everything you're doing.
Well, I should say one thing. I would say nice things about you earlier, but I didn't say enough nice things because every major achievement that I kind of went through, the Chamber of Commerce has been a full partner in that. Even sometimes angering some people, and you're your world and base, supporting public transportation, et cetera. It wasn't always the most popular thing, but I think your leadership and the Chamber's leadership has been proven right over time. And I want to acknowledge that because you've been a great partner in the success of this community.
Well, thank you. And it's a lot of folks behind it, and we appreciate the partnership. So thank you.
Go Suns.
There you go. Go Suns. Thanks for tuning in to Let's Talk Business Phoenix. Now, if you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow or subscribe to our channel so that you never miss an episode. We're glad that you could join us, and we look forward to seeing you next time.